Welcome to Kian Podcast. Summer in the early mist. Making Tan both sad and embarrassed. Tan noticed that, in the next box, a quick, gentle hand, both soft and firm, a little dazzling, had reached the foot of the shore. The rice stalks seemed to soften. The rice ears were lying in high piles, closing their eyes. Sleep and rest. Waiting for people to come back and enjoy the sun. While dreaming, suddenly from behind, there was a crackling laugh, and then a gurgling sound towards Than. General, people cut rice, but you look so terrible. Don't cut it. Half the time is coming. It's both funny and embarrassing. Oh yes. The person who cuts the rice sells his face to the land. His back to the sky. And his ass is also sold to the back. Suddenly I stood behind and looked at it. Strange, thinking that Tan's face was at the end, crossed his arms. The brace cut the lines in disorder. Tan was more and more frantic. Almost cut his hand. Tan thought, if every time it rains, the rice falls like this, it is difficult to cut. How to bring back the whole grain? Farming is too hard. Tomorrow he will return to the city. Thoughts about a job to go to the countryside. Li Hong kept swirling in the young man's head. Mr. Tan has to hold his body about half a hand from the base, then cut the tie line slightly in the direction of the spike inward. Then the rice will break more evenly. The girl's voice interrupted Tan's train of thought. Tan looked over, awe. It turned out to be the girl who was cutting the rice field next to him that he had been looking at earlier, sweat dripping down her red cheeks. Tan asked, surprised. So who are you to know my name? It seems that I have never met you. Yes. I'm Lan, Tu's mother. Living in the neighborhood next to your grandmother. Before going to school, Mr. Tan was famous throughout the school because he studied well, who knows? At this time, Tan suddenly remembered. It's only been a while since we've seen it, but it's already this big. I remember she was a black girl. Followed me every time I went to my grandmother's house. I went to catch fish. She followed me to carry the basket. I went to dig crickets. She followed me with a bucket of water to irrigate the cave. I went to the ditch when taking a bath. It follows as a target so you know how far you can swim. Poor girl. At the end of the village, only her house and the house outside the city. Her parents work as hired laborers all day. Send her to the suburbs to take care of her, so whenever Tan comes to visit, she is very happy and doesn't leave. Lan is a girl now. So what do you do now? Why cut rice for my house? Small question. Yes, I finished my secondary education in farming and worked for my cooperative since this rice crop. Yesterday, my father came over to ask my mother to help me cut rice, but my parents were cutting rice for people in the Ma Yen field, so I accepted to help my uncle, because this time, I still cling to the fields with my relatives. So what is Tan doing now? Lan's voice is clear and sincere, and her big black eyes are always looking at the opposite person.